Hello and grüß Gott. On this video I'm going to pull the fuel pump assembly out of my 2012 BMW F650GS 800cc Twin. The reason I'm doing that is the fuel gauge always reads full until the tank is almost completely empty. This uses a float type system, not the fuel strip, so you don't calibrate it. And so I want to check it out and see what's going on and see if it's hung up or stuck or something. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the seat off, and that'll give me access to the area underneath, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next. All right, to get started on this job, we're going to take the seat off first by using the key to take it off right here. And then I'm going to take this cover off because I don't have the BMW battery tender that plugs into this outlet. So I'm going to have to get to my battery to put a charger on it tomorrow when I get ready to do the calibration. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to take these 4 screws out here. They're T25. I'm going to use my VHA driver. And there's 2 on the front steering yoke. So there's 6 total screws, and then you have to be real careful when you pull this off that you don't damage the plug that goes underneath here. You can unclip it very easily. So we'll take that off, set it aside, take the seat off, set it aside, and then we'll be right back. Okay, we're going to be taking the fuel pump out. It's in this area here. So before we do that, we're going to take these 2 plugs out, and we're going to cut this clamp off, and we'll have to replace it with a screw-on type fuel clamp. And we'll also want to put something into this hose so it doesn't drip gasoline, and also we'll have to make up an adapter on the other end so it seals this up temporarily. And before we remove this hose, we're going to open up the fuel tank to relieve any pressure out of it, just like this, so that there's no built-up pressure that will pull or push gas out. So we're going to get all that done, and we'll come back and we'll show you what we're going to do. Here's the kind of tool I use to cut the clamp to remove it. And there's a piece that goes underneath, and when I reinstall the hose, I'll use this type of hose clamp on it right here. Plugs are removed and pushed to the side. I put a screw into the fuel hose, a cap over here. So now what we want to do is remove this rubber piece. It comes off just like this. So we're going to do that, and that will allow us access to the clamp that holds the whole fuel pump into the gas tank. So we'll get that done, and then I'm going to come back. To take the ring on and off that holds the fuel pump down, you're going to need to use either this BMW tool or a brass hammer and brass rod. You never want to use a steel tool because it can create sparks and ignite the fuel. So this just fits right on there perfectly, and then you can take this on and off. All right, so here's the fuel pump, fuel filter, pre-strainer and float assembly that comes out of the machine. So this float here, when the tank is full, reads about 3.2 ohms across these 2 contacts. And when the tank is empty, it reads about 88 ohms. You got a fuel filter here, your fuel pump's in this little plastic case here, and then of course you have your strainer. So that's about all there is to this assembly. At this point, we've reassembled everything, so the plugs are back in, cover's on. I put this on here, pulled this back up, tried to make sure the gasket was properly seated. So now what I'm going to do is start it up and test it to make sure there's no leaking. So we'll do that. And it starts up just fine. So we'll run it for a few minutes, make sure there's no leaks, and then I'm going to come right back. All right, at this point, I've put everything back together as I mentioned, and I want to make sure I don't have any fault codes. So I have my GS911 plugged into the computer and hooked up, and I'm going to connect it to this connector here, which you have to move it around to find the right spot. And then I'm going to get on the computer and run the fault diagnostics program and make sure I don't have any faults. So we're going to do that. We'll show you how that works here in a second. Okay, so we're ready to go ahead and do the GS911. So you go ahead and pick the model of your bike. In this case, it's F-Series F650GS. And it's going to say to turn on the ignition. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to run the fault diagnostics. the auto scan. And I think I'm going to have some codes because I had a burned out light bulb and I replaced it. So we'll see what it says. So it's running the codes now, and then it'll come up and tell me all my faults. And then I should be able to clear all those faults. And that's about all there is to this video. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Tschüss.